Mr. John Cooper
Brian.
back on the channel. How are we doing, Coops?
Go on, Coops.
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. It's a bad time to come and talk about Spurs, but yeah, no, it's good to see you guys again.
Yeah, we bumped into you, John, in Sainsbury's the other day before the Brighton game. We were like, oh, there's so many reasons to be positive about the club. You better get yourselves confident, better get yourself
and
excited.
What did I say? And what did I say to you at the time? I said, you are the most fickle Spurs fan I've ever met. You always do this. You always do this. So everything's going badly. We get a little run of games together, and you're like, get excited, John, get excited. And I said to you, look, I've been supporting Spurs for 40 years. I know the deal. You know, I'm a real.
Oh.
But anyway, yeah, no, it's, yeah.
It's good to have you back, John. It's good to have you back.
Good to see you.
I hope all the Morosexuals are reuniting for this one. But Brian Daigle, good to have you back on the show as well. What's going on, brother?
It's always good to be back with you two up top, but what a reunion this is. The person I did my first ever watch along with, a fellow Morosexual at the time. And yeah, as soon as you invited me, it was always going to be a yes. But I did ask you yesterday, Ben, who's the other guest? And then when you said the great JC, a million times yes. And I look forward to this one.
Yeah, Amazing. I've been looking forward to this one all day, to be honest. But let's get straight into it.
George in the comments says, why are we so happy?
We're so happy. John Cooper is back on the show, people. Come on.
You wait until I get into it. You wait until I go stuck in.
Yeah, we might have to kick you off the stream at some point today. But look, we're going to start off talking about the Brighton game because obviously it was a really good first half. Everyone very excited at half time. But what the hell did happen in that second half? I'll start with you, John. What the hell happened?
No. Okay, so I've got a different take on this to I'd say 99.9% of every Spurs fan, right? I could see it coming in the first half. In fact, when we went 2-0 up, me and my mate Damien, he's not a Spurs fan, but at that point, at 2-0 up, we put a bet on it being 2-2. And that's the first half. I did that. So all these Spurs fans, all these Spurs fans saying, you know, brilliant first half. Like there were warning signs in that first half. Let's be honest. I know we were brilliant going forward and like we were pressing really well as a whole organism, but you could still see the space at the back. You could still see the little flash moments of Matoma, the crosses coming in. They only needed to get on the end of one of those, and it was like a basketball game even in that first half. Even though we had the most intensity. We were winning those duels. We were getting the second balls. Me and my mate, who's a West Ham fan, he goes, this is going to finish 2-2. And I went, yeah, you're right. Like we're not going to hang on to this. So that was the first half. So most Spurs fans thought it was a perfect first half, but it wasn't because I could see it was coming even in that first half. And it's one of those things with Ange ball. It's like you're either going to win 3-0 or you're going to lose 4-3 or something like that, you know. And if Brennan Johnson got onto the end of that and actually kept the ball down, the game could have actually finished 3-0. You never know, or 3-1, right? But just the way the game was going, it could have flipped either way. So I don't think we were completely watertight even in that first half. I could see the warning signs. And obviously second half, I'll let Brian tell you about the second half and how it all fell apart.
Go on, Brian.
Well, what can I just say? It's a common thing that happens to Tottenham Hotspur. Lack of leadership. Sheer arrogance that the players think that we're bigger and better than what we think we are and we can get the job done. John was right. There were warning signs, but you thought 2-0, this is looking pretty comfortable. John's right with the chances that they were creating, but it happens with every single team. It's the Ange way. Chances are going to be created by the opponent. It's whether they capitalise on them. They didn't. For some reason, we came out in the second half thinking we were playing some kind of Sunday league team and that we can just walk and waltz around the pitch. The job is done. And as soon as pressure started mounting upon us, and you could see it, and we're going to come on to other things later, there isn't a single Spurs player on that pitch, and I include our World Cup winner, our Copa America winner, that you think would rally the troops and say, right, this ain't happening. Get up, fix up, sort this out. And we got burnt again. We could all see, you could see it in the stands, people watching it in the pubs, people watching it at home with their families, people watching what you could all tell what was going to happen with that second half pressure, and no one stood up. The only player I saw shouting and screaming and demanding more was Pedro Porro. The only one. We have a team that when the going gets good, they can play the great football like we did against Manchester United. But as soon as pressure is put upon us, There is no leader. There is no Julian. There's no Tony Adams. There's no Ledley King. There's no Steve Perriman. There's no Gareth Roberts. There's no Vieira, Keane, Terry. There's not one leader in that pitch that will say, "Fix up, sort this out. This is unacceptable," and we pay the price for it again.
Do you not? Don't you think though that it's? I mean, I think it's mainly down to Ange's system. I mean, I don't think Ange ball is sustainable, and I think this is the kind of the double-edged sword you get with Ange ball is that beginning of seasons when everyone's fresh, there's no injuries, you can play the high press. The team are building on confidence. There may be a run of games or something like that we've just had. The press starts to work really well, and then when the team's playing well, you'll notice Maddison plays well. When the team doesn't play well, he goes missing. But what happens is when the players fatigue a little bit, when they get tired, when there's a slight dent in the confidence of the team after a bad couple results, the team doesn't start to press so well. It's a little bit disjointed, and then that Ange ball flips very quickly, and then you notice that it puts us on the back foot, and we actually look extremely vulnerable in that position. And I could just see in that second half that they weren't able to sustain the Ange ball, the high press. And then because of that, it allowed for the holes, the leakiness throughout the game. So I think a lot of that is down to the kamikaze ball that Ange is playing. I think that he's too one-dimensional in the way that he sets up the team, that he sees the 90 minutes. I don't think he's got the in-game management to adapt to different dynamics that occur within the game. And I think that's what ultimately costs us. And I think you're going to see games where we win 3-0 or we lose 3-0 or it's 4-4. It's going to be like that the whole season long.
John, you say that is like down to Ange's tactics and the way he sets us up to the team. But when you look at every goal that we conceded in that second half, none of it was down to because we were caught out with the high line. None of it was down to anything tactical. It was all down to individual errors. When you look at Udogi's mistakes, Romero's mistakes, Van de Ven's mistake, our defense was in a good system. Our defense was covered. We were covered. None of those goals should have happened.
Yeah, but you say that, but you can say every single goal you can see is down to some error. Every single goal. But the point is if you zoom in on the detail of it, you can see that there was errors, right? But zoom out a little bit, you can see that there was a momentum shift in that second half. That wasn't down to errors. That was actually down to the overall flow of the two teams and the energy and the winning the duels and the intensity, winning the second balls, all that kind of stuff. That's where the game was lost in the second half on more of a generalized level. And that is down to the system, the way that the team was set up and what Andrew's trying to instill in the team. Has to be, right?
I don't think that's down to the system. I think it was down to the players on the pitch not implementing the fundamentals, what they had to do in the second half. I saw a clear lack of fight, a clear lack of motivation, a clear complacency issue within the team. The team weren't fighting in the second half as much they were fighting in the first half. I saw a lot of fight in that first half. I saw good mentality in that first half, and they came out second half in a completely different manner. I don't think that's tactical.
Look, John, you look at that third goal, right? There's three players around Rutter. He's able to wriggle free out of those three players. When there's three players around him, he should never be able to get out of that situation. Bentancur is then, once he gets to the byline, he's in complete control of that situation, Bentancur, and he tries to see the ball out of play instead of maybe putting out for a corner or something. Allows Rutter to get a slide challenge in, and then Welbeck has a free header because Romero's gone to sleep in the middle. Like, is Ange to blame because Rutter was able to wriggle past three players when surely Ange is in the setup we've got? There's three players around him. They should be able to deal with that situation. What's tactical? What would you like to see tactically in that situation that you would say? Like,
I'm not talking about the individual mistakes. I'm talking about you have to look at the big picture in the second half and what was actually going on with the eye test of the like you said, the energy, the motivation, the duel, winning the duels.
But what's that got to do with tactics?
Tactics as in like the in-game management, like be able to change it up. When you're 2-0 up, you don't have to keep playing that high press. You can soak up a little bit of pressure, create an out ball and try and change the game a little bit that way. You can use your subs earlier on in the game to sort of change things up a little bit. I feel like Ange he's got plan A, but no real plan B, plan C. Doesn't know how to adapt when the going gets tough. I don't see him having a different way of changing things up in the moment to help the situation. And I think that does cost us to a certain degree. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that answered it or not, but like, it's the same thing. As
I think you're right. There was obviously a momentum shift, and I think Brighton were well on top of us in the second half, and Ange probably should have done more to change things when he saw things going wrong. But I don't think that's about Ange Ball being unsustainable. I think that's on the day. Like, he didn't react quick enough, and things were, and when things were starting to go against us, we had no way of turning that around. But I don't think, my point is, I don't think that's to do with how he sets up the team or his tactics and all this kind of stuff. Because I think in general, this season, actually, we've played quite consistently well. I think in general, apart from maybe that second half, we have limited the opposition's chances to a minimum, albeit some of them have been good chances, but we have limited them to a minimum a lot of the time. And I think the way he sets us up and the way we play isn't necessarily unsustainable just because we like to press high and we play with a high line and we like to have attacking football. I think the way we've been playing, yes, there are going to be problems like this that occur in the season. Do we puff out too quickly on the hour mark, and do we have to start looking at making earlier changes to make sure we can maintain that intensity that we have that we seem to have in the first halves? But that's an ongoing process that we have to overcome. But I don't think the overall way we play is unsustainable. Is my point.
Well, we'll know by the end of the season as well, what happens. Because that happened last season. For the first couple of months, we were flying and everything was looking good. But then what started to happen, a few key injuries, and then, the confidence was a little bit shot. And then you notice that the whole team started to not believe in Ange Ball so much, and you weren't seeing all the passing out the back as fluid as it was at the beginning of last season. And then it all started to kind of decay a little bit. We rallied a little bit, and then it kind of petered out towards the end of the season. And the same thing happened under Poch. We were high pressing, very high octane, very energetic, but then we'd still burn out with like a month to go, like under Poch. Apart from the season, we got 86 points. So, I'm just thinking that could still happen under Ange. We saw it last season. And I just think that, when you're watching the games and you're seeing the two at the back, at least under Poch, what would happen is Eric Dyer would come back and make a three and make it a little bit more stable. But we are really playing that front foot football where it is kamikaze. Let's be honest, it's kamikaze ball. And so this is what you're going to get with Ange, these kind of results. So you've got to kind of take the rough with the smooth of it a little bit. You've got to kind of accept it, I guess.
Brian, I want to bring you in here. Which side of the argument are you with? Do you think it was a tactical issue in that second half, or do you think it was just the players with a clear lack of motivation and a clear complacency issue?
I think it's a bit of both, in all honesty, to sit on the fence. But I am leaning a lot more towards, we'll come on to Ange later, I think these players need to stand up and take a long, hard look at themselves. As I said, I think when we talk the leadership team and leaders, Spurs seem to have, we call people leaders experienced. Is Jay Maddison a leader? No, I don't think he can lead a conga line. He's experienced. He's played games. I don't think there is a leader in there. Romero is all well and good and happy to slap people across the back of the head or punch people when we scored a goal. Where's that anger, aggression, and kind of commitment when the chips are down? Where are these people standing up saying this is unacceptable? How can we do this? John's right with we cannot keep doing this 90 minutes. It's unsustainable to play that high line and impact and all energy for 90 minutes. No team can do it. No team can do it. Even Pete Poch.
Exactly.
Had to make changes. You cannot do it. But there are players on that pitch, or a lack of players, that will not tolerate this and say, listen, this is unacceptable. We need to buck up, stop acting like this, hit it into Rosette if you need to, whatever. So whereas Ange comes in for criticism, and rightfully so in this game, you're right. In the first half, it's all well and good. We were playing well. Like John said, there were chances being created, but they weren't taken. We had opportunities to stretch the lead, didn't take them. But when the chips are down, go look. And you two boys, as well as many others that are probably in the chat, were there live, and a lot of us got to see it on TV. The body language of some of these leaders were abysmal and shameful. And there's no accountability held for it. And I think we've got to stop using the word leaders, because we don't have any. They're experienced.
Yeah, when you talk about taking accountability for that performance, particularly in the second half, at least James Maddison was the only one in the whole squad that actually took accountability for that and came out on social media after the game and said it was completely unacceptable. And, you know, it's up to them to build that with the fans again and to put it right in the next game. It's just... obviously with Spurs, it's before an international break where these kind of performances happen, and we got 2 weeks to mull over it. At least James Maddison's not going to England, and he's got 2 weeks to work on the training pitch with Ange now. But
I guess the debate we're having here is did the second half happen because they were asked to do too much and they were running on empty, or did the second half happen because the players themselves came out thinking the game was won and got complacent? Like where are we at with that?
It's the latter for sure. Of course, it's the latter.
Let me just.
John is implying it's the former.
So what I will say with this is, like Ben said, James Maddison's the only one that's come out and said anything. How many times have we heard Tottenham Hotspur social media, our players, come out after the fact to say, "Oh, we're sorry, we come back bigger, we learn from this, we get stronger." Yeah. We do. It's always after the effect. Now,
exactly. They
can't apologise before the game, can they?
No, but they can show it on the pitch. They can show it on the pitch at the time, can't they? I said it before. The James Maddison, when the team's actually playing well and it's purring, he looks incredible. Like, he actually really starts to shine, right? When the team starts to dip a little bit, he goes completely missing. And I remember having this conversation before we signed him, and people were asking me, should we sign James Maddison? Because I've got some Leicester City fan friends, you know, they said exactly the same thing. He goes missing in those games. He doesn't actually grab the game by the scruff of the neck. When you need a player to like really pick the team up and get things going, he's not that type of player. He's the type of player that adds those beautiful little touches to the team when the team's all performing nicely and it's like a nice cohesion to the team. But when that doesn't happen, like that second half against Brighton, you notice that he doesn't really do enough for me to show that leadership. You know, I don't think he does. I don't think he's that type of player anyway.
You say that, you know, you say, 1 second, you say, John, that, you know, he doesn't play well when the team aren't playing well. But in a season where Leicester got relegated, so, I mean, I don't imagine they played well in many games that season. He got 19 goal contributions. So it doesn't really play into that narrative.
Well, I'm just going on the eye test of what I'm seeing here, you know, and I just noticed that he looks great when the team are playing well, but when the team aren't playing well, he doesn't sort of step up and pull the team up with him. And that's just one of the things that the Leicester City fans told me as well. But
John, are you saying in terms of that second half against Brighton, are you saying that happened because how Ange plays is unsustainable? Or do you think it happened because how the players came out, they thought the game was won, and that's why it happened? Like, is it a bit of both?
Well, it's both really, but at the same time, Ange is responsible for the players. Ange is responsible. It's the same thing. Do you remember we used to do the Hotspurs? And used to say to me, there's nothing wrong with the way Mourinho's playing this team. The only thing wrong is that we can't defend corners. That was like for months. That was what you said. And then when we started to letting goals other ways, you said, okay, it's not just corners. It's just Eric Dyer that's the problem. Mourinho ball is fine. It's just Eric Dyer that's the problem. And I spent the whole year trying to tell you that it's actually Mourinho's way of coaching that's the problem here. Because and I keep saying to, and you said, no, but he's telling them to push on. You can see him at the sideline pushing him on, pushing the team on. And I said, yeah, but it's Mourinho's responsible for making sure that they press. And it's the same thing with this. If the players aren't responding, if the players aren't showing the leadership, if the players aren't doing what he wants to do, he has to step in. He has to instill that even on the training ground or during the game. He is still culpable. He's still responsible for that. Yes, the players should respond, but it's a dance between the manager and the players. It's not, you know. I'm
not saying he doesn't take responsibility. My question is more about it's not how he implements it. I'm talking about you're saying you're criticizing Ange for how he plays, not how he manages the team or whatever. Or that's not what I've heard anyway. You're saying the way he sets up the team and the way he likes to play football is unsustainable, and that is that's the reason we lost on Sunday. As I'm saying, are you putting the blame on his system and how he likes to play, or do you put more blame on the players being complacent in how they came out in that second half? Not to say Ange doesn't. Obviously, Ange takes responsibility either way. But if we're trying to if we're trying to drill down into what the real problem is here, like Is it? Did we lose because the way we play is always going to concede chances, and the way we concede chances is built into the system, or did we lose because the Ange didn't make sure at half time this game is not won, and you have to stay on top of your game until we see it through?
Well, both, obviously both. You know,
why both?
Because it's never just black and white. It's never just one thing. Football is complex. It's like there's multi variables to football. You know, you can't just reduce it down to one common denominator. It's lots of different things. If you're asking me what's the core, I think that's what you're really asking me. Is
yeah.
Which is the
predominant? What if you? Yeah.
Yeah. I think the predominant thing is, I think it's the way that Ange sets us up and plays an Ange ball and the high press. And I just think teams can work you out after a while, and they can see that you can't keep that intensity up for the whole 90 minutes. I think they know that Ange is going to stick rigidly to that system throughout the 90 minutes, so they can start to get at us. We don't sort of adapt at any point during the game and maybe go slightly to soak up pressure with an out ball and have a bit of an outlet and then maybe counter that way a little bit. It's just purely that one dimension. You said about no leaders. I mean, you know, that's also down to the hiring and to the recruitment, right? To be able to get those leaders in. I mean, we lost Pierre, for instance, a leader. So and you just brought in a load of kids. So how are you going to create that leadership in the second half when you've only signed kids in the summer? You know, so there's lots of things, and Ange is responsible for that, is he not?
I'm not saying he's not. Go on, Brian.
I just want to add very quickly with what I was saying beforehand about James Maddison coming out and speaking after the fact. It's always the players. James Maddison is meant to be one of those leaders that's meant to be doing his talking on the pitch, not off it. He's always flapping his gums before and after. Do you talk on the pitch? So all these leaders that are meant to be doing it on the pitch don't. But you know, one player that stood out and said, you know what, I'm doing my talking on the pitch. Love him or hate him. Brennan goddamn Johnson. Hasn't listened, did what he did with his social media, came under enough criticism. And whether you want to say they're tap-ins or they're against weaker team, whatever, he hasn't come out to social media and goes, I'm sorry for my... He said, you know what, I'm going to show you on the pitch. And he's done his talking on the pitch. I'm sick and tired of these players that are experienced, not leaders, going, oh, yeah, we're really sorry. We'll be better next time. There is a fundamental problem at Tottenham Hotspur, which is lack of leadership. And we use that word. Experience is now the new leadership because there's none at Tottenham. No.
Yeah, but hang on a second, Brian. We talk about leadership, right? And I agree with you to a certain extent. But when you point the finger at James Maddison, I think's had a fairly good. I mean, he's been brilliant so far this season, from start till the 45 minutes at the end of the half. I mean, he hasn't had a bad season at all. He's had a good season. He has. He's had a good season.
Listen, again, that's eye test, whatever. Did he have a good game against Brentford and Manchester United? Yes. Half at Leicester. This is a guy that's meant to be one of our big players. If
you want to point fingers in the second half, you can't point to anyone that stepped up for the team in the second half, and that includes Brennan Johnson. It includes everyone.
That part I'm not disputing, and we'll come on to the defence and how kamikaze they were. But I'm saying people are saying James Maddison came out and he's done his talking off the pitch. Do your talking on the pitch. Where was your? Don't get me wrong, his performance may have been okay. But when the game is turning and you need your leaders to grab the team by the scruff of the neck and say, right, this is unacceptable, do it. Where was it?
The player that I'm more annoyed about is Cuti Romero. You know, World Cup winner with Argentina. How many goals has he personally been culpable for this season? You know, I don't know if his head's out the door, one eye out the door, or 1 foot out the door, whichever expression you want to use. But that defending for that third goal was nothing short of disgraceful. Trying to track Danny Welbeck. And I think what John was saying about Maddison, about when the chips are down, he's terrible. When the chips and when it's looking good, he's brilliant. I think Cuti Romero is a perfect example of that. I don't know what you guys think.
Where are our leaders as well? Like, where are the real, genuine leaders? I mean, I don't really see Maddison as a leader. He's not like a Gerrard type leader, is he? You know what I mean? He's not like a Tony Adams type leader. Excuse the Arsenal reference, but you know what I'm saying here? Like the actual old school leader where they actually really pull the other players up. You know, we don't really have that. And don't you think that there should be a slight sprinkle of that within our squad to have that kind of leadership? I mean, most teams are aware of that and they have those types of players, don't they? I mean, it's something that I would say is that it's in the makeup of a lot of squads, is to have those kind of slightly, throughout the history of sporting football, you know, that they always say you have the young players, but you also have to have a few experienced players in there, a few leaders in there. But it seems as though we're building a setup here, a kind of a new makeup, which is just young talent only, and hope they get it right. And there's no real wise elders to sort of help those young ones through. So who are the leaders, and why did we not get any leaders, you know, in the summer, for instance?
Well, the whole idea is we're building a young team, and because we needed to get a lot of the old players out because they were past their sell-by date, and we're building a team that's very young, that's going to grow together and will have a bright future. And that's, I guess, the idea. Everyone said we needed a refresh and a rebuild, and isn't this what we're getting?
Yeah, but you can have a rebuild and you can have young players in there, but you can still also have some core leaders in there as well to help those young ones through. But I don't really see that in our team. I just see it's just like loads of kids thrown in there, and when the going's good, it's brilliant. You know, they
well, I guess the idea is supposed to be Son, Romero, Maddison, and Vicario. That's the leadership group.
Yeah, but you know, if we're being honest, they're not the sort of player that would shout in another player's face, you know, and get them up to speed.
I mean, you've seen Vicario do that.
Yeah, okay, well, fair enough. Most goalies are like that, you could say. They're quite animated, you know, but I just don't think that's going to help with for the rest of the team. In the second half, he's not going to be able to affect all the 11, you know, the other 10 players, is he, from back there?
But also, like, having our captain not there, because I think Sonny is you know, he's good in that aspect, and you know, you see him G'ing up the players and stuff, and he's been injured obviously. But having no Sonny doesn't kind of give an excuse to the players to completely come out with a lack of motivation. I mean, these are the fundamentals that any Premier League or any football player in any level should be showing on that football pitch. And why was that missing in the second half? I just don't get it.
They just think that the job's done. They just literally, you look at it, people like Bentancur, his body language was absolutely abysmal throughout that second half. Forget his performance, just his body language. As John said, as I've been saying, you look at it, when he mentioned Tony Adams and Gerrard said, sorry for the Arsenal reference, these are people that have won things, that have gone on. And all these big captains you mentioned, they're that way. They're leaders. They get the job done. It's not all nice and pretty and come on, let's be having. They get at them, and I just think that switch off. I mean, we'll come on to lack of substitutions, which had a major part in it, and just sitting there again. We'll come on to it, but I don't understand how a team that's winning 2-0 like that and looking comfortable, yes, like John said, creating chances. Have been allowed, or as a team have just sat there and allowed this to happen. I don't understand the thought process, the body language, the mentality to just go, do you know what, job's done. Never think that.
Yeah, but like I said earlier on, you could see the warning signs in the first half. I know on paper 2-0 great. I mean, it was brilliant, you know, to go in half time at 2-0.
Wait, John, do you not think we deserve to be 2-0 up at half time?
Yes, but at the same time, it could have gone. It could have gone the other way as well. We did have the better. Don't get me wrong. We had the better of the half. We had the better chance.
I think Brighton had one chance that whole half, pretty much from Welbeck.
But then I wouldn't have put on the bet 2-2 when we were 2-0 up with my mate. You know, that was first half. We did that. So you tell me, why did I do that then? If it looked so one-sided.
I'm not
because
saying,
you're Spursy at heart.
You just know, yeah.
I know.
You're a Spurs fan.
I profit on our demise, but no. But me and my mate, we were talking. We could say, yeah, we're on top, but you can definitely see this could flip at any moment. This can flip because it is quite wide open, you know. And so I could see that in the first half. A lot of Spurs fans couldn't, because when you see the scoreline, it's almost like it blinkers your ability to see the intangibles of that half, if you know what I mean. But we could see the warning signs were there. Second half, obviously, you know, the goals reinforced the fact that there was a momentum shift. But for me, it's not just the goals and the mistakes. It's actually that change in momentum where they completely rolled us over, which is like the main issue there. And like you say, I don't know, you know, you've got to say, what does this come down to? Is it the players? Is it the leadership? Is it the management? Is it Ange Ball? Is it all of that? I mean, what do you guys think?
But me personally, I just thought the players just took their eye off the ball completely in the second half, and they just couldn't get that motivation back. They came out and thought the game was won, essentially. and it's nowhere near good enough. And I don't think we've seen those traits from the players so far this season. And it's something new within this season. Hopefully it was a one-off, and we got to pray that it was a one-off.
It's the first time under Ange we've not won from a 2-goal advantage. And usually we are quite good in those positions, especially when since Ange has been in charge. As soon as we go 2-0 up, we're quite good at managing those kind of situations. Yesterday was a bit of a new experience in a way, not for Tottenham fans, but in terms of this Ange team. It was and for Ange maybe himself, it was a bit of a new experience of this team. The fact that we came out thinking the game was won and basically he said it, in his we'll talk about his press conference in a bit, but he said, we thought. I think the big difference was. I think in the first half we earned the right to play our football with how we came out in the pressing, and I think maybe in that second half we came out thinking we'd already earned that right, and we didn't have to earn it back again, if you know what I mean. And we didn't have to play your football. You have to kind of win those duels, win those challenges, so that you can get on the ball and you can exploit the spaces and you can get on top of the opposition. And we weren't doing those things. I think we came out in the second half thinking, oh, we're just gonna play around them, play our football, and we'll see out this game easily. Not with that fight, knowing that this Brighton team are going to come out with a heightened aggression. They're going to come out trying to get back in the game, and that kind of slipped our mind. We just thought we were going to easily see this game out. We'll just play some pretty football like we were in the first half. We don't have to really earn the right, because we earned the right in the first half. We're already 2-0 up, and it's just going to be easy going from then on. And I think we just completely lost our way in that second half. The worrying thing was the way we lost our way, and the fact that we didn't really even have a second wind, and we were even late in the game when Brighton are sitting back, we weren't even able to trouble them. That was even more concerning. But obviously the way we gave up the lead and went 3-2 down within 20 minutes was disgraceful, in the fact that we could tell there was a momentum shift and nothing was being done about it. But on the flip side, the even more concerning thing potentially is the fact that once that period is passed and the onus is then on us to create chances again, we offered nothing. I think Udogie had one shot. Udogie had one shot, and that was it.
It felt like it could have been like a 4-4 at some point, But then I remember in that last 20 minutes, I went, "Oh, it's going to stay 3-2 now."
Brighton seemed comfortable.
You just knew in that last 15 minutes, like that's actually it now. There's going to be no more goals in this game around. And I don't know what did you think of the substitutions? I mean, didn't Maddison come off and Mikey Moore come on?
I think Werner came off for Werner. No, it wasn't Werner. Who was it?
Moore came on at 85. I think.
Who was it for?
Sarr and Basuma came on for Maddison and Werner, and Decky went into the front three, and then he brought Moore on, moved Decky back again. Yeah. So yeah, look, I think it's a learning experience.
Oh yeah, it was Maddison for Moore.
I think
Maddison for what? I mean, I don't know what do you think about that even? I mean, like you're chasing a game and you bring on Mikey Moore instead of for Maddison. Like who? I mean, was he tired?
Well, if we wanted Moore on, yeah, I guess, yeah. Maybe you should have brought Moore on earlier because you brought one on 85. It was more for was it more for Maddison?
It was more for Maddison with 5 minutes to go. Yeah,
5 minutes to go.
What do you think of that?
Because he was having a terrible second half. He was having a terrible second half, I guess.
Yeah, but like, who's more likely to get you a goal? Like, even if he's not playing well.
I would have personally started Moore in the game on the weekend. For Timo Werner, but at that moment in time when the team, where you could see there was a clear lack of motivation in the team, I thought it was unfair to bring on a 17-year-old kid when you saw what the team was actually about. I don't think Moore should have come on in that game.
No, and especially when you needed a goal. Like, I just thought it was a bit like, it's almost like Ange knew that nothing was going to happen. He just thought, I'll let Moore have a bit of a run.
Problem is, we didn't really have any attacking options. Moore was the best one we had.
The only one.
So we had Lancashire, we had Bergvall, but wasn't. We're slim.
Why don't we? Another reason.
Because Odegaard, Richarlison, and Son are all out. That's why.
Yeah. Okay. But and we could have a conversation about recruitment at some point, but I don't know where you want to go with it.
We'll leave that to another day. I'm sure Brian will want to have his say on that during the transfer window. But look, let's move on to the next topic. But just before we do, we've got a couple of super chats to get through. First of all, big up to Sean Slater, THFC. Welcome to the We Are Tottenham TV family. Welcome to the Gold membership. Good to have you, my friend. And the bingo prince, I would say. I wouldn't say king.
He did what did he? 5 in a row.
Brian, unfortunately, he's taken your title.
Brian, what you got to do with Brian is start making a spreadsheet and keep track of all the bingo wins. I think that's what you got to start doing, Brian. I'm going to leave that in your court.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
A members chat member for 13 months. David Shire says, absolute meltdown. We say we are finishing 5th.
Absolutely.
I still think we can finish. I still think we're in a top 4 battle this year. I don't think that second half has made me think otherwise. And David Shire again with the super chat. He says players' initiative is non-existent. Do you agree with that?
Partly, yes. Because I would say definitely. Look, we've got Solanke right there. We've got Solanke in the front line. They've got Duncan, Igor at the back. Who, yes, they're decent players, but Solanke is can definitely compete physically with both of them. Why not just go direct to him if we're struggling for playing out the back that we were and get things to settle down? Solanke is more than good enough to hold the ball up. That's one of his best traits. He's able to take the ball down and bring others into play, and we just refuse to do that. And I think sometimes obviously, Ange drills into them that this is how we play, but sometimes players do have to take a bit of initiative where if things aren't going right and we're being pressed and we're struggling to play out, just go direct to Solanke and try and get some joy there, because we know we signed him for a reason, and that's one part of the reason we signed him. So I do think he should we should take some initiative on that front for sure.
All right, well, let's move on to the next topic, and we're going to be talking about Ange Postecoglou and his comments in the press conference after the game. Obviously, it was clear, I think we can all agree, that subs needed to be made a lot earlier in the game than which they were made. I think our first sub came on, 79th minute, even later than I thought, to be honest. And when you see we were struggling after the first goal, the second goal, the third goal, and still another 15 minutes after the third goal, subs were made. I thought it was a bit disgraceful from Ange not to make the subs earlier when he said it in the press conference, he could see the team was struggling. And these were the comments regarding that situation. He says, yeah, I could have, but all the things are totally irrelevant to me. Substitutions and all these kind of things. If you're not competitive, it doesn't make what you do. You're not going to get rewards. You don't deserve to win. We didn't deserve on our second half performance, irrespective of subs or anything else, to get something out of the game. But I think if you do get something out of the game, you're falsely rewarded, and I don't want to get falsely rewarded. So, John, what do you make out of those comments, and why did he not make those subs earlier?
I don't know. That's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like he frustrates me with like the kind of lack of in-game management a bit, and his kind of rigidity throughout the game. And I don't really understand the substitutions half the time. I don't really think they make sense. The only time I've really seen him ever show real attacking intent with the substitutions was against Man City, the one game that I just didn't want us to show any intent last season. Do you know what I mean? It felt like he really wanted to prove a point and try and absolutely go all guns blazing to get the goal there against City. But in normal games, I just don't see it. I just don't understand what's going in his mind when during a game. Like when the going gets tough, like Ange, you can make substitutions to kind of shore it up a little bit and like hold on to the lead a little bit more. It doesn't mean you have to completely stop the free-flowing football, but just, tighten things up a little bit. But I don't know. It feels like he's not proactive. He's reactive. And then he's not even really reactive. He sort of waits too long to react to it often. And then he'll make a substitution. Like last season, I think he was bringing on Harry Skip when we needed a goal.
Ollie Skip.
Ollie Skip when we needed a goal. And what? So I don't know. This is just, I would like to ask you the same question, to be honest with you. What do
you make out of these comments that he made after the game? Because he's trying to justify him not making the changes till very late on in the game, once the game was gone pretty much.
Sorry, could you quote me again what he said? Like exactly? Sorry.
He says, yeah, I could have made the subs, but all these things are totally irrelevant to me. Substitutions and all those kind of things. If you're not competitive, it doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to get rewards. You don't deserve to win. We didn't deserve on our second half performance, irrespective of subs or anything else, to get something out of the game. But I think if you do get something out of the game, you're falsely rewarded, and I don't want to get falsely rewarded.
No, I can see what you're saying there, but sometimes
explain
it's not just
to us,
about,
John.
Yeah, well, it's not just about I know what you're saying in the terms of it's not just about the substitutions that can miraculously help things. Totally, I get that, because if the whole team is struggling, then sometimes subs won't make any impact whatsoever. But I would still say you can try and see what happens. You know, it can just affect things around you, and it can tighten things up. You can change the formation around a little bit. You can tweak things in game. It's not like managers haven't done that and haven't, you know, won games from that position before. It's almost, I don't know. I just find it slightly strange that he's saying that, because he's basically saying that, oh, I don't really need to do anything from the sidelines. I don't really have to make any substitutions. I don't really have to do any in-game management. The team's not playing well, so that's just how it is. So we might as well just leave it then. That's kind of the feeling.
Is he implying on the side with those comments that he's kind of saying the players on the pitch got us into this mess, and it's on them to get us out of it? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, there is a little bit of a whiff of that. I mean, okay, let's just throw it round this way. You're the manager, you're on the sidelines, and you can see that the team isn't showing the same intensity, and they're losing those second balls. They're not winning the duels, let's say, and you can feel there's momentum shift. What would you do, Sim, in that moment as a manager on the sideline?
I'd change it. I'd get involved in the game, and I'd get players who can get onto the pitch and win those duels and try and regain control of the game. And that's what frustrated me with hearing those comments, because he kind of implies he saw the problem but decided not to change it because of this sense of the players, not doing their jobs. And I get what he's trying to say. Like, just it's not like if we lose this game, it's not my fault for not making subs because the players lack that intensity in that fight, which they have been drilled, week in week, day in day out in training to perform on the pitch. And if they're not doing that, then it's not my fault just because I didn't make subs that we've lost that game. And if I made some subs and we got something out of the game, doesn't mean we deserve to get anything out of that game, and I don't want to be falsely rewarded for that. But I also think your job as a football manager is to, when you're on the sidelines, you're obviously, at the end of the day, their jobs is to win games and get results, right? That's the job. That at the end, yes, there's projects and processes and all that stuff, but all that is a way of building a team that they believe is sustainably going to get results. And part of your job is in-game management, and a part of your job is seeing things on the pitch and getting involved in the game to tweak things and change things to try and regain control, and not just sitting back and saying, well, they're not doing what I told them to do, and so it's their fault that we're losing this game. Like, that might be true, but it's on you to get involved in the game and start changing that, and that's on you to switch things up and to not just sit there idly and do nothing, essentially, and watch things go bad and not try and regain control of the game. And that did really frustrate me, and it frustrated me in the game, and it frustrated me even more hearing those comments implying that he did see the problem but decided not to change it.
What's going on, man? I'm agreeing with you. What's going on here?
Doesn't make a good Hotspur episode.
Okay, so it just... Tell me, when has there been a game where Ange has shown some really good in-game management and changed things up, and you could see the dynamic change on the pitch? Can you think of any examples?
Can I think of any examples where the dynamic has changed in-game?
I don't think there has been one this season, that's for sure.
Well, I think this season in general, we've been in control of most games. It's like, I don't think there's been a massive need to change things up in most games this season.
I guess the only game that I can think of, I can think of is the Brighton away game last season, where we really should have got back in that game. We created more than enough chances to do that. We were 4-0 down, got it back to 4-2, and we created a bucket load of chances, and that was due to the changes that Ange made in the game.
Ben, I still think the Brentford game at home a few weeks ago, where he stopped Porro and Destiny inverted, where Maddison had one of his best games. There were subtle changes in certain games that he has made that I believe have been slightly overlooked. But getting back to his press conference, that bit about falsely rewarded has infuriated me beyond belief. Like, we got people that stand by the manager, defend the manager. I'm one of them. But it's comments like this where you can see where he antagonizes and winds people up, because how you can say, like Simon said, this is a football manager. It's a result-based business. And you saying, I don't want to be falsely rewarded, does that mean every time that we're playing bad or in a losing position and playing badly, you're going to go, do you know what? This team deserved to win. They've played better. It blows my mind that a man can come out and say these things. It's like, what are you saying? Because you don't need to hear this after a defeat. we can all see. Listen, I'm just going to harp on one substitution that should have been, whether it should have been a substitution or a change at the very start. I came on to one of your fan shows. I think it was the Fenerbahce game where we spoke, Ben and Sim, about the quote that I say that players are overplayed and undervalued, and we were talking about health-wise if they're being not rotated enough. Destiny didn't go to Hungary because we wanted to rest him and make sure he was okay for Brighton. I think we could clearly see that he wasn't. Whether you could see that in the first half or later on in the second half, and you've got Spence sitting there. You've got a ready-made replacement. Would it have made a difference? We don't know. Would Spurs fans have said, roll the dice because this can't continue? I think we all would have said, yeah, get Spence on. We can see he's struggling. It wasn't made. Again, Destiny has been overplayed when he may not be fully fit. And then to hear him say that, and I'm completely with you, Sim, where he said, where he thinks these players got themselves into the mess, they get themselves out of it. Well, no, you've got 5 substitutes. The entire point of substitutions is to make changes to enhance the game. Should changes been made at 2-1? Maybe. I think you and Ben said yesterday, Sim. I think it was you that said it, Sim. The most infuriating point was at 2-2. He didn't make those changes. At 2-2, if you had brought Sarr and Madison on, Sarr and Basuma on, you'd be like, okay, he's there to steady the ship. That makes sense. Let's get control of the game. Then you bring a Mikey Moore on. But you're 3-2 down, and then you go, do you know what? Let's steady the ship. Let's close shop. Well, no, we don't need to close shop. We need to be on the attack now.
Yeah.
His comments are mind-boggling. His comments after the games have been mind-boggling, and especially after Brighton.
Brian, after the game, he also said it's the worst defeat he's had in his tenure. It's the first time this season, since he's taken charge, that he's seen a lack of fight from this team and a lack of intensity in the second half and lack of doing the basics in the game. Basically very much calling out the players, I guess, in that second half. Yeah. So is he right to do that? We've blamed other managers for doing that. Criticized. We have criticized other managers who have done that in the past. So is Ange right to do that on this occasion?
I think what we've criticised before is when certain managers have called out players individually, live, and literally homed in on one person and said, right, this guy, what, blah, 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 blah. Whereas what Ange has done it collectively. And I think Ange was absolutely spot on for calling them out. In fact, he should have called them out harsher, in my opinion, because they deserved it collectively. You said as well, I think it is the worst performance from going 2-0 up. Listen, you mentioned Fulham away last season, but they were on top the whole game. We threw this game away. We just literally, we had victory in our hands. It was all in our control, and we blew it. Other games, we've just been overrun from start to finish, and it's like, right, the best team won. We haven't adapted. This was unacceptable and like you guys said, once again, this has happened just before international duty. And it's our players more concerned now before international duty about picking up a knock or anything and not being able to play for their country, as opposed to representing the badge that we all love and admire. I kind of get it if it's towards a World Cup, a Euros, a Copa America, an Asia Games, an African Cup of Nations. These are pre-season or international friendlies. And these players seem to take more commitment and passion into that than they do into games just before an international break for Spurs. And I think Ange was absolutely right for calling them out. And it was the worst performance, definitely.
Do you think?
What did you, John? Do you agree with that kind of method of Ange to calling out the players after the game?
Fans should call out the players. Sorry.
No, Ange. I'm saying Ange calling out. Ange being hypercritical of the players, calling them out, saying, they're not doing the fundamentals, they're not doing the basics. It's the worst defeat he's had in his tenure. Do you think he's right in doing that, or do you think that should be more kept in house? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I think that should be kept more in house, to be honest with you. And I think he's responsible for the players, so I don't think he can just completely pass it off to them like it's not his role at all. And I don't think it's the worst result. Losing to Arsenal at home 2 seasons in a row is worse, you know, and just treating it like another game and not really getting upset about that's worse for me, because at least it was, the first half was good, so second half fell apart. But I don't think that for me losing 2 North London derbies at home in a row is what he should be. That's what annoys me a little bit about Ange, to be honest with you. He doesn't quite get that, does he? He doesn't quite understand how much that game means to us, and like, you know, he should have been absolutely livid after those defeats at home to Arsenal. But it seems to me it's just, for him, it's just another game, you know. Whereas, you know, I don't know.
What do you think, Sim? What do you think, Sim? Was he right to make those comments?
Do I think he was right to make those comments? I could think he was clearly very emotional after the game. That was obvious. I think had he had his, was it a mess sending him, because he did at the end say, obviously I have to take full responsibility for it, but he was saying, you know, this is it was the worst defeat he's had in his tenure, and it's the worst time. It's the only time we haven't done the fundamentals. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that though, because I remember some defeats last season, like Fulham away and like some of the like Liverpool away, where like we were just rubbish from start to finish, and we just like didn't get at all going in the game. At least in this one we got control. But I understand what Brian's saying is that, and I think it is true, it's probably the first time we really had proper control of a game, and we only have ourselves to blame why we lost it, and we just completely gave up control, and we completely allowed the opposition to bully us. And I can understand his frustration. I can understand him being so annoyed at that situation that he couldn't keep that to himself, essentially. So I think on this occasion he probably is right. I think if you're doing it, if you're continually bashing the players week in, week out, it becomes a clear issue. And I think that is something that has gotten other managers in trouble at this club and is criticised. I think on this occasion there had to be a bit of a wake-up call for the players, because I think the way they had control and just gave it up, and it's almost like, as we say, they thought the game was won. I think that was a big reason why we lost that game. So I think the players did need a bit of a wake-up call, and I think Ange has given that to him. But hopefully that's the last time we see that. And if we see it again, then I think there has to be more on Ange than the players.
I don't mind him calling out the players as long as he takes responsibility himself, and I think he did do that in the press conference. But however, I don't like the comments that he did make on the subs, because it was clear as day that we needed subs a lot earlier in that game. And when you're kind of comparing it to other managers who have done the same, I think it was Mourinho who was calling out individuals. He wasn't calling out like as a collective, and he never took responsibility himself. Conte as well, he called out the club. He called out the players. He didn't really take responsibility himself. But I think that in that time when Conte called out everyone after the Southampton game, I think everyone needed to hear that at that time as well. And it's actually sparked a big change within the club, Conte doing that, you know, selling all the dead wood, bringing in a whole heap of new players, decreasing the age of the squad and everything like that. So I had no problem really with what Conte did at that time as well. I think the Mourinho one, when he was like calling out individuals, I can't remember exactly which individuals he called out off the top of my head, but I remember he did do that. So I think every situation is probably a bit different in the moment in time which they're given. But I think the way Ange did it over the weekend, I think it was completely right, to be honest. And I don't think anyone can really argue against it.
Agreed. I mean, you can even add Tim Sherwood to that list when he did it after the Chelsea game.
I loved that interview from Tim Sherwood after that game.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? It was good.
Go on, Ryan.
Go on, Sim, you go, bro.
Now, I'm guessing there's a difference between agreeing with what Ange said and then agreeing that he should say it publicly to the media, in a way. You know what I mean? Like, should he be kind of saying one thing to the media and then another thing to the players behind closed doors, like give him a good bollocking, and then to the media kind of take responsibility himself rather than throwing the players under the bus? I guess that's the argument people would say. But obviously what he said, I don't think people disagree with, but is it the right thing to say it publicly, I guess is the argument.
I think collectively, in press conferences, whatever, collectively is absolutely fine. When he's behind closed doors in private, then the inquiries and the calling out individuals will happen. That's what you keep in-house. But if you can't come out and collectively say there was no leadership, there was no this, there was no that, as a team, everyone else can see it. And if he doesn't call it out then people will say, well, he's clueless, he's not calling it out, he's not seeing it. So
Exactly.
I think when he's doing it live or press conferences, go for them collectively. You're not calling out individuals. You're just saying what we all say on YouTube or in the pubs or whatever. And the inquiries individuals, you do keep in-house. But collectively, you have to be able to discipline them verbally on record. You can't. He does take a lot of the responsibility for no subs and other things, but he can't just say, right, well, yeah, there is fault on that pitch, and collectively they deserve to be called out.
I do think it becomes a bigger issue if it's like individuals, and I think any time Ange is asked about individuals, he comes, he always backs them up, and he always kind of stand up for them, doesn't he? Timo Werner, Brennan Johnson, when they're not going through good times. So when it does come to individuals, Ange is always there to stand up for them.
Correct.
But look, let's move on to the last topic of the day, and it's completely opposite to what we've been talking about pretty much this whole stream. And we're going to talk about reasons to be positive, and are there reasons to be positive, and to look forward into this season. We'll start off with you, John Cooper.
No.
Come on, Coops. Come on. Let's get some.
You just want me to. You would be happy if I was constantly positive and never say one bad word.
Come on.
You've come and be.
We're trying to squeeze the positivity juice out of you. Come on, we're trying to find some.
What are the positives here? We might beat Man City and get through that game. we might crawl our way to a League Cup final.
But John, from what you've seen, seen all season. Can you not see that Spurs? Do you think Spurs are on the right track? Do you think Ange is the right man to take us forward? Because I do.
Do you want me to be positive or honest?
Well, you can be honest.
You had to think about that. You actually had to think about that. What's good for the channel right now?
Lie to us, John. Tell us what we want to hear.
Look, I think there's going to be some games where we go on a string of games and it looks really good, like the beginning of last season. And I think we'll all get the hope back up. We'll bump into each other in Sainsbury's and you'll be like, God, we're going to win the league. But then there's going to be a run of games where there's a little splinter, and then we kind of maybe go on a run of games where we lose, like last season as well. And I think that is just symptomatic of Ange Ball. And I don't think that's necessarily going to change. If I'm being honest, that we're not going to win a trophy under Ange. Like I said that under Conte and Mourinho as well, and everyone thought I was mad. I was probably the only one that said Mourinho wouldn't win a trophy, and everyone I got heat for that for like 6 months, didn't I? But I still don't think we're going to win a trophy under Ange. But
we sacked Jose 3 days for a cup final.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we wouldn't have beaten City anyway. Let's be honest. But I think if this is the moment for the rebuild, let me say something positive here.
Go on.
If this is the moment where we have got a load of the old players out, and we've cycled in a lot of the young players, and there is a new kind of thing about bringing in these young players like your Bergvalls and your Archie Grays. Ange probably is the right man to nurture those players and bring in that new bunch of players in. Whether he's the long-standing manager that's actually going to bring us success at this club, I don't think so, but I think he could be the manager that actually, if we are going to go down this path of recruiting young players, then Ange is the right man for that. There might be better managers to help those young players, but he's as good as we're going to get right now. And I suppose it's going to be, we're going to see those players blossom and become better players, and we might see some little starlets. But I don't actually think we're going to, if I'm being honest, I don't think we're going to win anything. I think we're going to finish, fifth again, fifth. Sixth. I don't necessarily think we're that much stronger than last season. I think we'll probably make like the quarterfinals of a cup or something like that. But some people might think that's progress. I don't know. It depends how you want to look at it. But
what is wrong with Ange's approach? Like, you didn't like Conte and Mourinho because they were too pragmatic. Even though they're serial winners, they know how to win things. Now Ange is going in a different direction, but you're still not happy with how he approaches it.
Well, I mean, it's a lot deeper than just Ange. Even, I mean, Brian's here; he'll tell you. You know what I mean?
Why are you putting me involved in this?
No, I know, but look, I mean,
this is supposed to be reasons to be positive.
No, okay. Well, I'll start off. I'll give a shit sandwich. I'll start off positive, go shit, and I'll finish off with the positive. But we know that Oh, I'm not going to do the sandwich bit here, but we know that the conditions aren't right for any manager to come in. Any manager that comes in, it's not built for success. It's built for sustainability. It's just built to maybe keep our heads above water. We're treading water with Levy, Enoch, and Joe Lewis. We know that, right? So whatever manager you bring into this, it's like a chef coming into a restaurant and he's constantly given, like the lowest cost food here, right? So Ange is probably doing the best he can with this group of players. He's trying to get the best out of them. But ultimately, I think fundamentally at a root level, institutionally, we're flawed. So I think we're always going to be. It's always a band-aid solution with these managers. Conte, Mourinho, serial winners didn't work. We tried that philosophy. Now we're trying to cycle it back into a prospect manager, one that's going to nurture the young players. I don't think that's going to win trophies either. But then there might be some changes.
If you look at our first 11, pretty much like every player has cost at least 40 million, pretty much.
Yeah, but have we spent that well? And
but that's not on. But you can say have we spent that well, but it's not the amount we're spending is the problem, is it?
I don't think there's ever been, if you look at our net spend over the last 20 years, I don't think if you actually compare it to the other clubs, it doesn't actually rank too badly, but it's been also mismanaged as well. We haven't really invested when we need to invest at the right times. Like not investing in the whole season when, not even buying one player, or the season after we finished third to Leicester, like that was the time to really put the foot on the gas and invest in those certain players like Mane and stuff like that. But he didn't want to. So I don't know. It's also just the intent.
I agree with all. Yeah, that's history. We're living in the here and now. We're living in the here and now, aren't we?
Anyway, let me finish off with a positive.
Go on.
I like Archie Gray's hair. No. It's good to see you guys going, Brian.
Wait, John, let me talk to me about the young players. You're not really excited about some of these young players. You don't really think that they have a really bright future.
No, I do, but it's almost like they're prospects, and we have to wait for in a few years' time for those seeds to blossom into something. Whereas, we should be really considering winning now, but we're not set up to do that. It's almost just like we're building for something later down the line. And yeah, okay. You can get behind that, but come on, we need a trophy now. We want to set the team up to win something now, and I just don't think that's the philosophy right now.
But John, every club that have had that mentality over the past 5 years have gone down the shitter. You look at Manchester United that have spent God knows how much to try and win now with all these players that are supposed to be like at the top of their game, blah, blah, blah. They're going nowhere. You look at Chelsea, what they've been doing. They've gone absolutely nowhere in the last few years. The teams that are doing really well are the teams that have kind of like followed a process. Liverpool from the start of Jurgen Klopp, Arsenal, Arteta, Man City are a different kettle of fish, Man City and Man City, but they've also spent really wisely in the transfer window. They haven't just, gone and splurged on absolute superstars here and now. They've bought really smartly. So isn't that the way you just need to do things now?
I'm not saying you have to completely buy the superstars. I don't think we're ever going to do that. But, I think we need to sort of be looking at tried and tested Premier League players as well to mix in with the young players. For instance, last season with the signing of Maddison, that's the sort of signing that you should be looking for, like players that are tried and tested, right? But, the players that are coming in, I think Bergvall is going to be great, and I can really see it in his game.
Dom Solanke, tried and tested?
Yeah, well, you could say that. Yeah, one good season at least, but... but I do think that you need to sort of be bringing in those players that are going to come in and hit the floor running and not going to start on the bench, because these young players they're on the bench. So you're paying all that money, but they're not even starting. So is this really helping the team throughout the season?
But again, it's only 7 games into a season. I'm looking at the makeup of the squad, and I don't think it's anywhere near the finished article. It's not the finished article right now, but I can see progress. I've seen progress from last season to this season. I think Dom Solanke is a brilliant number 9. The way he holds the ball up, the way he presses, I think he's perfect for Ange. I'm looking at the forward line that could do with a couple of additions, maybe a big 6 to come in next summer as well. But you're looking at the players that we have. How much deadwood do we actually have in the squad right now? I don't think there's much.
Maybe not deadwood, but I would say there's a few players where the jury's out with still. You'd have to agree with that, right? We're not the finished article by any means, are we?
That's what I said. Yeah.
But have you not seen progress this season, John?
Well, if you go back to this time last season, you'd say we were stronger this time last season, wouldn't you?
But you love the eye test. Well, I'm talking about the eye test.
No, I'm talking about the eye test as well.
John, I actually think in the first 7 games of this season, we've actually played better than the first 7 games of last season.
No, I don't agree with that. I think we were playing all out the back much better this time last season, and I actually think there was a lot more confidence with that. I think Basuma was actually, for the first 4 games or so, he was world class. Do you remember? And I think he's completely fallen off. I think he fell off around the Luton away game. I think where he cost us, and I think his confidence dropped from that. I don't really, and actually just want to talk about that a little bit. He's not cool. He's not coming for the ball enough. I think he's hiding behind the opposition a little bit too much. That's a little bit of a frustration. But
I think that was true up until Balloon Gate. But I think since then, I think he's actually had a massive improvement.
Yeah, but he's still nowhere near those performances like in the first sort of half a dozen games last season. Would you not? You'd have to agree with that. I mean,
yeah, but maybe that's just one player. But if you look at the performances this season, Leicester away, we had 15 minutes where we came under the cosh and could have conceded 2 or 3 goals. But I think we more than deserved to win that game and played well for the majority of it. Everton at home, we won 4-0, completely dominant display. Newcastle away, we've been absolutely battered there the last 2 seasons, and we more than did enough to win that game. And we lost 2-1. Arsenal at home, probably, maybe a 0-0 draw was probably the fair result there. We lost 1-0. Brentford at home, heavily dominant performance, deserved to win. Man United away, heavily dominant performance, deserved to win. And obviously Brighton is Brighton. We've covered that in detail
we were
today.
Still 2-0 up in that game.
And we were 2-0 up. We should have kicked on in the second half.
You could say that it's not a million miles away from this time last season, but I think we've particularly stepped up from where we were last season. I think we're probably going to. My prediction is 5th or 6th this season. And that's still not dreadful. I mean, Arteta. What was Arteta in his first 2 seasons? Probably terrible.
8th.
There you go. So I'm not saying it's it's drastically bad or anything. I'm just trying to be realistic to where I see us.
The way I look at it, I think we're bang in the middle of a rebuild. I think performances, apart from the second half at Brighton, are looking in a positive way. And these kind of results and these kind of moments are going to happen, particularly in the second season of a rebuild. And it's all about sticking with the process and seeing what comes at the end of it. And I believe Ange is the right man to take that forward. I feel like, maybe we didn't get enough of what we wanted in the summer, but I still think the direction that we're going in is a direction. I think we're going in an upwards trajectory, and if we keep with this manager and we keep with the same mentality and just fill the holes that we need to do in every transfer window, which I did think we did to a certain extent in the summer. We just needed more, and maybe needed more here and now players like in the mold of Dom Solanke. I still think there are a lot of reasons to be positive looking forward.
Do you not think there's a few more? I mean, I'm seeing that we tend to do well against the teams towards the bottom half of the table, right? But the top 10 teams, it's almost like they figured us out a little bit, and we're really struggling against. I mean, what would you say to that? Because I feel like that's a big problem for us, and I don't know whether that's Ange Ball, whatever it is, but I think we come unstuck.
Yeah, but
I
this
think
is a
last
process.
season that was true. First was a process, but I know. Look, we should have beaten Newcastle. The Arsenal, I know they beat us, but they didn't exactly figure us out. They got a corner and that was it. Like, it wasn't exactly like a great performance from them. Battered Man United, who are probably going to finish top half this season, and then we were 2-0 up against Brighton and we got complacent, and that's something we're going to have to learn from. So I don't think our performances against the good teams have been bad. Yes, some games we maybe should have had more than we did get, and some games we obviously we're playing against good teams. They're going to have periods as well where they're on top and stuff like that. But I think in general, this season our performances so far against good teams have been pretty good performance-wise. But yes, we still have to go the extra mile and just getting consistent results against them. But that puts you obviously in the upper echelons of being title challengers. And obviously I don't think anyone expects us to be there quite yet. So we're going to have... we're going to have those problems and struggles at points.
You turned into Ange there.
Get the Ange cough. But we are going to have those problems and struggles against good teams. There's a reason why they're good teams, because they're good. But I think the performance-wise so far this season, I haven't seen a massive issue with it. I don't think we're not getting last season. We were getting battered by a lot of them. 4-0, 4-0 against Newcastle, 4-2 against Liverpool. Arsenal, we were 3-0 down at half time. We were even Brighton, we were 4-0 down. Going to the latter stages of that game. And this season, it's been a big improvement. Yes. maybe the results could have been better. But I think I'm definitely seeing improvement, in my opinion, and progression, I would say. Do you not think you've seen progression, Brian?
Yes and no. I mean, you speak about the performances. The performances may be better. This is still point-wise one of our worst Premiership starts in recent times. So you have to look at that. You can look at performances and points. We've all been saying it's a result-based business. The results aren't coming.
Well, under Conte, it was our best. We had our best ever start to the Premier League season, and we finished 8th.
This is the thing. I'll go on to what I'm fully behind what Ben says as well. With Arteta, it's why I won't turn on this manager. I haven't turned on the manager because the managers that start to do things and turn things around are ones that give them time. Are we in the middle? How many times we are? 25 years coming up to into a 4-year rebuild. We're always rebuilding. As I've started.
Yeah, it's always the rebuild, isn't it? This time next year, Rodders.
This time next manager, year. Whatever. And do you know what I'll say again? I heard one of my friends in Seattle mentioned a quote that said, "Football it's a North American sports terminology, which is you're either reloading or rebuilding, or rebuilding or reloading. And reloading means when you're strengthening those areas to give extra strength in depth and whatever. We're never reloading. We're rebuilding. We got rid of all these players we needed. Now we're rebuilding from them. We're never like, right, let's reload. Let's get let's get more competition for this. We're in that position. I think the only way we get out of this right is by standing by a manager, and I will stand by that. The positive I'm taking out of that Brighton result is I've said it before, and I'm going to stick by it, whether people agree with it or not. I'd rather that defeat in the league than a cup competition this season. Anytime. I don't care where we finish in the league. I want a trophy. So if we have to have a defeat like that, I'd rather it be in the Premier League. I don't think we're getting top 4. I don't think we're in the race for top 4. No. I think we might be in the race for 6th based on what we've got and based on how we're doing. I'm going to be real, whether people want to agree with it or not.
How can you say we're not in the race for top 4? Who's in the race for top 4?
Mate, I would say Newcastle. I'd say Aston Villa. I would say Chelsea, big time compared to last season. I just don't think we have the squad.
Are they not getting just as inconsistent results
injuries.
As us?
We went into a season where Ange said we're physically stronger than we were last season. We're having to play Timo Werner at left wing because we got our 2 top wingers. We lost our 3 strikers in the first week of the season. Van der Ven's picked up a knock. Destiny is doing it again because I go back to overplayed and undervalued. So I just can't see us sustaining. And also, we got 5th playing in one game a week. We're playing a season right now where if we get further into competitions, which I hope we do, we're going to be playing 2 games a week for most of the season. Sunday, Thursday.
Do you think our squad is better suited to Ange though this season? So in theory, when we make changes like we have been, the players that are coming in are more suited to what Ange needs than last season.
But they probably are, Sim, but that's where he could have relieved some pressure off of Destiny and played Spence. He's got them at his disposal, but he doesn't utilise them.
Hang on a second, Brian. Before this game against Brighton, all of us were sitting here and agreeing that Ange was managing the squad really well, and in terms of his rotation,
making the changes in the Europa League. I said, Carabao Cup. Obviously, he made wholesale changes against Coventry. I think with the Europa League against Karabag, Vicario in goal, huge sign of intent. He's got the players there to make subtle changes and then go, right, Premier League, you're in, ready for Europa, I'm going to drop another 4. But then you look at it at times like the Premier League, when you see Destiny is struggling, you have a ready-made replacement. It's there. And that'll go back to all the comments. But I'm saying I would rather, and this is a positive for me, I'd rather take that performance in the Premier League than I would the Carabao Cup against Man City, than I would against AZ Alkmaar in the Europa League, or against whoever we get in the FA Cup. Because I said
we need a trophy. We need to get over the line, don't we? I think we all know that.
For me, the most realistic way to success for Tottenham Hotspur this season is winning silverware. We're not winning the league. We're not coming second.
No, we're not going to win an FA Cup. It's going to have to be the League Cup. We're going to have to get through this City game somehow.
And you look at it, people say we want top 4 and we could challenge. If people said, do you reckon I put all the eggs in the one basket for going for top 4, or all the eggs in one basket of winning the Europa League and getting Champions League football, that would be the avenue I'd want to go down. That's where and we'll have to see as the season develops But we're positive. I believe we need to stick with Ange.
Yeah.
I believe we need to see. Listen, I could be completely wrong. He could get 3 years, 4 years, and
You're
we're in the
completely
same
right,
way.
Brian. Don't worry about that.
But no, but I'm saying we could turn around. I believe the way to success is backing a manager, and I mean by giving him time, not by saying, "Oh, he didn't get the players he wanted." Whether I'm right or wrong, we'll find out. But I think we've gone down the road of so many times of sacking managers at this kind of interval or at the end of the second season where we've never seen where we could go. So that one is tried and tested and failed.
You know what I'm just concerned about is that you often see this pattern, and you used to see this with England a lot, the England appointments of manager. What you'd normally have is you'd get like a salt of the earth English manager, you know, kind of a Harry Redknapp type of manager, right? That kind of thing, right? And then they would dovetail into like a continental manager. And then they'll dovetail back into like an old school English style manager. And we saw that dovetailing. With Spurs, it's almost like I'm just concerned what's going to happen is we start off with these, you know, like a prospect manager. And when some of these seeds blossom into players and we feel like we need to like really galvanize this now, they'll flip into more of like a win it now manager, a contract manager, like a Mourinho or Conte. That won't work. And then we'll dovetail back into another prospect manager. We'll try that philosophy. That won't work out. And we'll constantly be doing that again. You know, I'm not really ever seeing success from that. So I think we've got to somehow break the pattern a little bit, and whatever that looks like, you know, we've got to.
I don't think Levy ever goes down the route of the Contes and the Mourinhos again. I think he realised the mistake he made in that sense. I just can't see that ever happening again. But I tell you one thing now that I'm going to guarantee you right here on this stream is we will beat Man City in the Carabao Cup. I'm telling you that right now.
We've got a very good chance. Yeah, I think we've got a good chance of doing that.
John, do you not think we can win Europa League this year?
Do I think we can? I mean, we can.
He's just said Ange ain't going to win a trophy.
We got a potential. I don't think we will, though. That's the one I'm going to say. It's just, I don't know. It's just from, you know, you've been supporting Spurs so long. You just you know, the war.
Do we not have a squad that's capable of winning the Europa League?
We've always got a squad capable of winning a trophy, but you know, there's the Spursiness, there's the soft underbelly in our DNA that, and we know that, right? And that's never going to go away. That's just like who we are. So, I mean, we can always win a trophy, but whether we do, I just, you know, it never seems to happen, doesn't it? And that's why we are who we are, and we live with our team, and we, you know, we feel the pains and the highs and the lows and everything else, and then, you know. But,
Brian, do you think that we're going to win a trophy under Ange?
I hope so. I believe so. I believe he's. I honestly do. And it's not because he said, which he shouldn't have said, because he should have learned from Conte and Jose. Don't say I win things in my second season, because we've shown you we are the kiss of death to managers and everything somewhere. And with that blotch on the CV, I think given time, and if he takes the cup competition seriously, and I'll repeat, if he's allowed to take them seriously. Because of what I will say, and this will probably ruffle some feathers, if someone said to Daniel Levy, top four in Champions League and the Premier League money, or win the Europa League and top four with less money, he'll choose the Premier League. He will choose top four position over winning a trophy, in my honest opinion. And we've seen it with, but I do think Ange can win us a trophy. I really do. Whether it's year 2, year 3, or please God, further along the line, I think Ange is the man to end the drought, the famine. It's just whether he is given the time to do it.
Come on. Now that's what I'm talking about. I think that's the most positive note that we should be ending on. So thank you very much for Brian. Brian says Ange will win a trophy at Tottenham Hotspur.
I'm the positive one, bloody.
Okay. Come on. I'm with you,
what's
Brian.
going on, Brian?
I'm completely with you, Brian. I think Ange will deliver. Ange will deliver if we give him the time and we keep building in the way that we're building. I think Ange will deliver, and maybe it will even happen this season. I think we got a good chance of it this season, whether it be the Carabao, the FA Cup, or the Europa League. I do think there's a big chance that Spurs can lift that shiny silver thing that we haven't seen for a very long time. Sim, is he gonna?
Please God, yeah, like about time.
The only one that hasn't given us the only one that hasn't given us the answer is Sim.
He's going to win Europa League. Winning Europa
All right,
League.
so go on. You guys give your predictions on trophies. Which one do you think we're going to win this season? Go on, go round
Europa League.
I'm going to go.
Europa, Ben?
I think we're going to win the Carabao.
Brian?
Do you know what? I was going to say the one that they didn't say because of how much it means to me. So I was going to say the FA Cup. So apparently we're winning the treble.
Right, I'm going to go for the league then, all right?
All right. So if whoever
Finish on that note.
Whichever one we win, the trophy who predicted, they get £10. How about that?
Oh, great.
Go on, Lucky John.
I'm not lucky with bets on this channel, so I don't know if I want to be part of that one.
That's funny.
All right, I want to say a big up to both of you guys for coming on today. Big up to everyone in the comments as well. Nice positive note to end on. Spurs are winning the quadruple, apparently. But JC, it's been a long time, brother. Thank you so much for coming on.
QQ says in the comments, I've missed John Cooper's negativity, he said.
Oh, good. Glad to come back and offer something.
Hopefully we'll see more of you on the channel pretty soon.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
When you're not gallivanting around the world.
Around the world, yeah. All right. No, I look forward to that. Great to meet you guys again. Brian, great to see you again, brother. Hope you're doing well as well. And yeah, hopefully we should meet up and have a drink at some point.
And throw some darts. But Brian, once again, thank you for coming on, my brother. Do you want to tell the people what's coming up on Tottenham on Tour this week?
Yeah, just the normal morning brews and evening brews. It's international breaks. There might be a few pre-recorded surprises coming on. But yeah, Monday to Friday this week, morning and evening brews.
All right. Big up to you, Brian. Big up to you, John. We'll be going live with Last Word on Spurs once again tomorrow, so keep your eye out for that one. Sim is doing Sim and Chill tonight, and I've got my show launching tomorrow night as well. So a lot of action coming up on We Are Tottenham TV over the next couple of days. So we'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.